Hey everybody, Mike with Games Play Badly, and today on session 0 I have Craig, who we've had on before, with Brian. They did a game previous to this called Rack and Vale, and also I interviewed Brian for Dr. Broadboard. And following in suit with their normal pattern of titles for their game. This one is a officially licensed Monty Python game called Monty Python's Curricular Medieval Reenactment Program. And it is based in the world of Monty Python. Some of those, obviously, the sensibilities are there. Some of the characters a lot of the characters are there, actually. And they've gone through and fleshed out a lot of these characters that you've seen on screen. And it is not about recreating skits. It is about transforming the world into what you want it to be, and it's a lot of fun. Now, I'm not doing it justice, but the interview will, so please stick around for that. As usual, I have my Dungeon Glitch shirt on, and I'm currently in the face of this. Hi. I have and always will buy Matt shirts over at Gem Firefly. If you want a Gem Firefly t-shirt, make sure to go to gemfirefly.com and get whatever you like, and when you get ready to check out, make sure that you go up and put in our code BADLY15, BADLY 15 for 15% off your order. As always, I want to say thank you. Thank you for following me on Twitter. Thank you for following me on Facebook. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. If you have not subscribed and you like our content, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button. And also, if you like the video, make sure to put a little thumbs up. We have a brand new website with all of our content up there. It's the easiest way to get to whatever you like, and all of our socials are down below. So I can't wait for you to see Craig and meet Craig again. That interview starts now. Hey Craig, how are you?
Hey, Mike. Nice to see you again.
Yes, it's always awesome to. We were just literally talking about your soundtrack that you had written for Rack and Vale, which is yet another game that you guys have produced, which is awesome.
Yeah,
But you were here to talk to me about something completely different, but still a
exactly.
game. And so, why don't you go ahead and tell me all about it?
Okay, great. Well, the game is Monty Python's officially licensed co-curricular medieval reenactment program, which, translate to experienced players as a role-playing game. But no, it isn't. So silly right from the get-go. It's basically, as we say in the title, a full reenactment program, which means the framework of the game is that we're actually going to reenact historical events that put England on the map. And most of that happened in the medieval period. So of course the jumping off point is Holy Grail and Jarl, the Norseman and stuff like that. But it very quickly disintegrates into what is so Python-esque, where you suddenly find yourself on a television program having to defend the reason that your crossbow failed. And and of course the other players then will have questions for you, why does a crossbow fail? And what were you shooting at? And what is a crossbow made of? Just completely out there things. So basically, it's a rules light system. We wanted to keep it, not too intense like 5e or some of these games where you spend hours just, picking through the rule book. We want it to be, just hands-on, jump in. Also for people who may be Python fans, but not necessarily, hardcore gamers.
Hmm.
So like even you could say after dinner, let's have a quick session of Python. You could also, of course, do long drawn out campaigns and have the fun, multiplied by as many hours as you want to pour into it.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, Python is a setting and a comedic style that has never gone out of style. And officially licensed, how'd you go about doing that?
Okay, well, Ryan was actually working with a company that handles lots of different brands, mostly for bands, actually.
Mhm.
Ryan was looking for a band that he could, create a setting around. And actually, looking along the list, found that Monty Python was in there among all these rock bands and called up the person and said, "What about Monty Python?" And they said, "Oh yeah, they're actually really interested in branching out and reaching new public. They're really easy to work with. Check them out." So he got in touch with Terry Gilliam's daughter, who handles
Hmm.
all of their branding and merchandising stuff, cashing in. So
Awesome.
she, showed it to the team, and some of the things that we had written, just kind of brainstorming earlier on, very excited about the possibility. And apparently what we wrote was, exciting to them, and Brian signed the contract, got a license. So
That's awesome.
from then on, we said, "Holy shit!"
What
and
do
he
you
got
do
to
after
writing.
that, you
Yeah,
know? So currently this is kickstarting now, and you guys have
that's right.
great fanfare and applause to from the folks that are backing it. And I'll have links to all that stuff down below so that way you can check it out yourself. So what you guys do and what you have been doing in general are just these kind of amazing games built off whether it be artwork or a style or what have you. So this game falls right in line with that. So what are some of the unique things about this game that you won't find anywhere else?
Well, one thing we'd like to say is that we're not trying to make a funny game,
Hmm.
which of course, usually flops because the expectations are so high. What we wanted was a game that was Python-esque, which is
Hmm.
really, very strange. I mean, we laugh at Python sketches because we're surprised by, the twists and turns that happen. They also find comedians, of course, it is hilarious what they do, but most of what makes us laugh is that it's just so bizarre, the
Hmm.
where things go. You never expect things to go where you think they are. So that's really what we're going for, rather than trying to make it funny. So we hope that that comes across. And the other thing too, really important, was not to just reproduce situations where people are going to, replicate sketches or
Mm.
scenes from the movies. We wanted to just have a toolbox where there's all these elements, the characters. There are hundreds of characters because we're using all the material of the Python output, not just Holy Grail, which of course is kind
Mm.
of a central stone, but
Right.
there's every possibility to veer off into a television studio where you're being interviewed by hostile art critics, or uh, the colonel who thinks this is getting much too silly. And so we're not into trying to reproduce sketches, but we'll give you elements of them that you can bounce off and see what happens. Because, of course, most RPG players or any Python fan is probably, pretty likely to go off on a tear without
Right.
much prompting. Really want this game to be narrative driven, and it's so important. The rules light is really because we don't want the players to be constantly looking down at their character sheet to find out what they're going to do.
Hmm.
There are resources there, but we really want the players to engage each other and be in the storytelling with one another, and not,
Mm.
constantly referring to their resources. What can I do? And the other part of the power of that, and avoiding being too silly or too serious, is to just describe what your character is going to do. Don't say, "Can I roll to do this? Can I roll to do that?"
Hmm.
If you describe it well, the idea, and we're going to really encourage the game master to do this, is that if they describe it well, let it work. Just go, just keep the story moving. And so, of course, there are certain things they're going to propose they would like to do that you should really decide, that they should roll for it. That's
Hmm.
certainly, the head of Light Entertainment's job, is to decide when things should be rolled. But if you get a good description and they're really in their trip, then just roll. Let's get on with it.
Right,
So
right. I agree. Especially if someone's going to pantomime or act something out, funny walk around the room or whatever. I mean, if they can do it, I say go ahead and do it.
yeah, that's right.
Well, and I think what you're going to find is that people around the table are going to be laughing so much at what's going on. It's going to be it's going to take you right into the game and you're not even going to realize you're playing anything anymore.
Could be. It could just disintegrate into a theatrical improvisation.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that what Monty Python is?
It's among other things.
Yes, I mean it's
Absolutely.
a lot of that, a lot of their improv early stuff and improv. I mean, all of that is so classic for that troupe that I think if it happens around a table with a game, it would make them ecstatic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that real golden rule of theatrical improvisation, I think they employed so well and so frequently was just to say yes, and just accept the proposition and run with it, even in
Yeah.
another direction. But you try and avoid to saying no and saying no, that's not what happens. But yes, and boom,
Yeah,
off
right,
you go.
exactly. Yeah, I like this. Yeah, I'm really very curious to see how this whole thing plays out, literally and figuratively.
So am I.
And
I
it
would love so much to have archives filmed of every single game. I just think that would be so rich.
I think so too. I think it could be a master class in improvisation. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I like
No
it.
doubt, no doubt.
Right, right. I think you're giving people the tools to go ahead and have a good time, and they're obviously with all role playing games, it really is up to the players to dictate their own good time, whatever that may be. So, and you're just
Exactly.
giving them some Python-esque tools to go ahead and work with. I mean, I'm sure. I can guarantee you, everybody who's watching is saying, "Is there a holy hand grade of Antioch?"
Sure, sure. Let's stick that in there.
Well, obviously things are
Yes,
still being creative, but I'm sure everybody's gonna want the stats on a holy hand grenade. So,
yeah,
just a thought.
you're certainly right. There are holy hand grenades. There's at least one of them is that will actually work.
There we go. That's good. That's good. That's good. So that's really cool that you're actually working with Terry's daughter because I mean I don't know that I would ever get. I mean, just talking to somebody on the phone like that would be so cool. But so,
Sure.
have you gotten any feedback from the guys themselves?
No, none at all. We have no idea what they think of this.
I'm sure John's like, whatever, who cares, you know? So how long has this been kicking around?
It's been over 2 years now
Oh my goodness.
because the licensing process was more complicated than that I led you to believe at first.
Mm,
But there were some obstacles and go back and forth, and then long periods of silence, and then there were some personnel changes,
mm,
which got things rolling again. So yeah, there were times where there was some serious doubt that this was ever going to get off the ground.
mhm,
But Brian especially was very persistent and methodical and
mhm.
professional, and finally was able to negotiate any obstacles that were there. So, but
Brian the
we have been
Bulldog.
writing for a lot of that time.
Mhm,
Of course, Brian has been involved in other projects since then. At the same time, his Dr. Groordbort with
mhm,
the artwork and creations of Greg Broadmoor. So that's been in the pipes. And in fact, they came down pretty much at the same time for him, which
mhm.
was just like a giant foot coming out of the sky and smashing you. But
So
he has
speaking of
managed
those
to juggle both projects, and now the Kickstarter is a short week away from ending. So yeah,
well,
we're excited about just getting all the pieces put together.
yeah, it's all very exciting, especially when you're dealing with such a intellectual property as Monty Python. So that's pretty amazing.
You're absolutely right, because not only are these gentlemen very funny and excellent writers and creators, but they are also, men from studied in Oxford and studied philosophy. I mean, it's the jokes about philosophers go pretty deep, actually. It's very erudite material, but also philosophy is very accessible. I mean, everyone is a philosopher. Everyone has a philosophy of life. So, in fact, it's not so far from what everyone does. Most of our philosophies are a lot more simple. We don't write enormous books about what we think, but we do all have opinions about how the thing works.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what's been the most fun for you to work on?
The most fun is just kind of twisting things around because, like I said, we're trying to avoid just recreating scenes, even though people have adored them. But again, putting the elements in into play together, or setting them side by side, things might not have anything to do with one another, and
Mm-hmm.
to see what combinations come up with. Also been developing characters that have not been very developed, like Ursula the Wacky Queen, or certain personages like Lord Kinwoody, and and what's his name, Ken Bomber, or what's his name, but actually developing their stories in depth, so
Mm-hmm.
that when a party of characters walk into a bakery and meet crazy what's his name, that he actually has a story, things he wants, things he doesn't like, things he likes, and they're actually can create a relationship with this character that in Life of Brian he wasn't very developed.
Mm-hmm.
So, or in any of the sketches. So we've done a lot of mining the material and developing people that we might have seen just a small facet of.
That's pretty
That's been really
incredible.
fun.
Yeah, lots of work.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. So you mentioned this can be you can do a more traditional campaign type
oh,
adventure, but
sure.
this is something you can just kind of pick up and put down when you want to play it.
Yeah, we hope so. We hope so. Yeah. And there's of course the role playing part of role playing with the characters interacting with, but there's a framework around that which is interesting that we developed, that this is all actually a historical educational program. And so
Hmm.
there is a person at BBC who's in charge of this educational program, and we call him the head of light entertainment, who is actually your dungeon master, your game master,
Hmm.
but he also will have a role to play that is not just his typical roll this and what are you guys doing now, or are you sure you want to do this. He actually is going to have a personality that he will have to portray in order to run the game. So for example, you might be an upper class twit named, Boodle Boodle, and he has certain sensibilities, things that he is looking for in his game. That, like, for example, the guy who's interested in sports, he
Hmm.
wants everything to be kind of oriented towards sports and competition and things like that. And when the players don't really adhere to that program, he could become upset, or he could also get complaints from the studio audience. And so,
Hmm.
for example, if the player characters annoy him too much, then the studio audience could revolt, run into the scene, and beat everyone to a pulp. And they're off again.
Yeah, right.
Or he could receive complaint letters from the studio audience that could eventually cause him to be sacked. And then
Hmm.
you have to replace him with somebody else.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's
So,
really cool because you're actually bringing the DM into the game.
right, right.
I mean, and we're always there. Speaking as a dungeon master, game master, showrunner, whatever. But to actually not be kind of behind the scenes manipulating, but to be face forward as a character as well is pretty amazing. That's pretty
That's
awesome.
right. Yeah. And so if you see the visual of the DM screen, there's actually a kind of a cutout suit of this executive, and the head is placed in a slot up above so that the player characters can see who they're dealing with. And of course, that head is removable every time the head of light entertainment might be sacked. So, and of course, then the game master will have to change personality and
Hmm.
change expectations and change things that annoy him or things that please him.
Very good. That sounds like a lot of fun.
So yeah.
So now, from the standpoint of the Kickstarter, which is going on now, when are you actually going to be releasing the game after the Kickstarter?
Oh, I have no idea. But I'm terrified to think that it's like several months. Like, so some people in the comments think that it might be even a year. And I'm like,
Yeah.
my God, a year. I hope it's not that long because, well, we've created a lot of material. Maybe that's what's going to take so long, is cutting it down.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe you have a sequel. a really badly written
Yeah. Oh
sequel.
God, we've got material enough for a sequel. But again, mining the comedic material and the output of the Monty Pythons is just, astronomical. There is so
Sure.
much stuff that's worth, developing. There's in another situation, you might find that not much of the material bears development, but this is not the case with Monty
Mhm.
Python. And there will
Yeah, I
be,
would imagine you could probably take some pretty serious deep dives into, especially the more philosophical pieces, and all of a sudden you find yourself down this rabbit hole, and
exactly.
hours and hundreds of pages later, here you are.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's very good.
So,
Now, so you created as I mentioned earlier, a soundtrack for Rackham Vale. Are you going to create a soundtrack for this game as well? Is that a
I
perk or a stretch
I
goal?
have no idea. No, it's not in the plans, but who knows?
Yeah, I think you do a great job.
Thank you.
Some wacky little ditty.
Could be.
Yeah, that's fun.
Or
I'm
wiggle
really
out of
looking
them.
forward to seeing this launch. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, great. So the player character, we're also calling it participant character, so that PC remains a code for all you really experienced gamers. The PC is going to have a character sheet that has, and each character is going to have a certain number of situations. So, such as the knight, the noble, the monk. You can even be a king or a monarch. If you want to be a queen or a king, you can. We may not give you castles and lands to go with that, but you can absolutely declare yourself a monarch. No problem with
Sure.
that. And of course, we have peasants and minstrels and all sorts of social situations for you. And each situation will have a certain number of traits that you have, such as valor or humility and naughtiness. There's a whole slew of things like that that will help you form your personality of your participant character.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah,
I love that, because even the stats, naughtiness. I mean, that's you know, who
yeah.
doesn't want to
Well,
be naughty?
it's each of these traits is on a continuum, going from extremely naughty to not at all naughty and very chaste. So each of these traits are on a continuum, and every time you roll a one on a die roll to test your trait, we call that spamming, and that means that you will now move your tests further towards silly on the continuum, and that means that instead of rolling a 20-sided, you will now be rolling an 18-sided. And if it should happen again later on, you'll be going down to a 14-sided, and it could get really bad. But also, if you roll the highest number on the die on your continuum for the moment, for example, say it's a 20-sided, and you roll a 20 on a test, we call that struthing. And so what happens then is you immediately roll the die superior to that one. If
Oh,
you
wow.
struth again, and you roll again. But there's a danger sometimes in doing too well, because you're starting to become very serious about this act that you are trying to accomplish. So that can have consequences. In fact, we call them dire consequences. And
Mm.
this is where we start messing with the head of light entertainment. Because if you have to roll on the dire consequences table, things can be pretty bad. And one of the first things on
Yeah.
there is the giant foot comes down out of the sky and smashes you. You're gone. You are no more.
Awesome. Yeah, because if you think about it, I mean, you're all beholden to this corporation or this network, for your show. So it's like
Right.
if you end up taking the limelight away from everybody else or doing something so well that, yeah, I mean, I get it. It just makes perfect sense.
Great.
It's
Great. I hope
that's
so.
so much fun. I love the concept. You really sharpened the visual pencil for me with your description. So now I kind of know what to expect, which makes
Cool.
this probably one of the wackiest games I've ever seen from the standpoint of mechanically how it's going to be done. So I love all that. And the Kickstarter is running right now. Again, links will be down below. I will have additional information updated there as the Kickstarter ends, so that way you know where to go and look at stuff. I'll have links to the website where you'll see previous projects. You can get all your good stuff there too. And Craig, as always, it is such a pleasure to have you on. And I don't think I need to wish you any luck, because I think you guys are smashing it right now. So congratulations.
We might, we could say we're struthing.
You are struthing.
But it's really
be careful though.
That's right. Don't want to get too serious.
Yeah, right.
But we sure thank all of our backers who have been so enthusiastic and hilarious in the comments section. Good job.
That's what I hear. The comment section is comedy gold. So
it's hilarious. It's so great. There are some people that posted like 30, 40 times, just deliberately wasting our time.
Absolutely. Why not?
Apparently they have nothing better to do. There's a side game called, and this happens when you might be captured by the French. They will force you to play this sort of twisted backgammon game where you have to, your character is on the backgammon board and you have to go play backgammon and go to the other side of the board and recover a cow and then bring it back. Of course, the competing team is trying to do the same thing, going the opposite direction. So there's lots of bloodletting and clobbering, and there's also, the dice are being rolled by catapult, and we decided to make a real backgammon game with lots of French icons on the board, of course, and also real catapults to fling the dice across the table. So,
that sounds like a lot of fun.
Pretty out there.
That alone is a reason why I would back this. Just for that, I love backgammon, but to be able to have dice catapults, that would be fantastic.
That's so fun. Well, thank you, Mike. It was great having a time with you. So look forward to gaming with you.
Absolutely, we've got to. I mean, you're not in my time zone, but I'm sure we can make it work.
With pleasure.
Thanks again, and congratulations, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.